Hi guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Major 4 begin today. OpTic Texas certainly not going in as the favourites, but a fascinating conversation was uploaded last night between Scump and Shotzzy, talking all things OpTic, and it seems all things Dashy as well, revealing at least from Shotzzy and Scump's perspective why Dashy was dropped, and there was all the drama at the start of last season. Obviously has improved to the present day. Still though, some very interesting information, especially when it comes down to exactly what their problems might be today going into this specific event to round out the season. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, an update on the MohaK situation. This is, if you guys saw the other day, this guy Zealot basically put out a post saying that MohaK's in a homeless shelter and looking for help and support and all this type of stuff. Now, it was kind of unclear exactly what was going on there, although I believe that he also posted this screenshot that was going around, which I don't imagine was faked, but who knows? I don't really know what to make of this, to be honest. But anyway, MohaK apparently had told him, this is back in April, to be fair, he's in a homeless shelter. Parents kicked me out. But look, who knows what's true? I genuinely don't know how to read this one, just because some people are saying, oh, well, maybe the parents are on MohaK's account and they're posting this or whatever. But look, I don't know. I'm just hoping for the best. aBeZy the other day, who probably knows a thing or two in reply to the Zealot guy's tweet, basically said, he's okay, don't worry about it, like DM me, he's fine. But MohaK says, hey guys, haven't been responding to anyone or on Twitter recently as I've been focusing on my mental health for the next season. I've seen some rumors regarding me being homeless and I've come to say that I'm not homeless and I'm fine. So that's good. Hopefully this is true and nothing to worry about on this one. Although the Zealot guy who initially posted about this whole stuff and why this drama kind of blew up over the last few days tweeted this out then a couple of days ago before deleting it. His parents have his Twitter and seem very invested in not letting anyone get a hold of him, so there won't be any help. So that's what he said back on the 22nd of June. So maybe there's a bit more to this than initially meets the eye. All I'm saying is hope MohaK's okay, because it's a difficult one, isn't it? Obviously Challengers player, made some progress, won the Challengers World Championship a couple of times, never got the CDL spot that he wanted, and just wishing the best, right? Obviously we look out for our own here in the COD scene as much as is possible. Let's dive into some other things then, because the Major 4's coming up around the corner, the World Championship in just a couple of weeks time in Dallas. This is pretty crazy as well, I'm not gonna lie, from Brian Stats here, and I've talked about this before, but I thought the extent of it is actually really interesting, that this year we have no rookies who are probably going to win an event. It seems very unlikely that a Gwyn on the Ravens, a aBeZy on the Surge, or even like Lins or Geo or whatever, players like that have been on teams that are decent but not going to win an event, let's be real. But if you go back for the last several years, you will find a rookie has won an event, and honestly look at some of the names that we have seen over the last few years. And I don't know if it's a concern that this year we haven't seen rookies of quite this caliber, maybe you could say. Maybe this is inevitable to at least have 1 year or whatever where there isn't like an incredibly hyped rookie coming through. But maybe there's something to say there about what the talent pipeline looks like over the next couple of years. Last year, of course, Scrappy came in. Hixie won an event as well. Prid and Sib in the year prior. Standy Insight won in the year prior. But also, let's not forget, HyDra came in that year as well. That was his first year, but he didn't win. He made the finals. So Shotzzy, Illy, CleanX, MohaK Awakening, all in MW19. And then you go back to Black Ops 4, Simp came in that year. World War II, Pharaoh, of course, came in. And Kenny, came in World War II as well, you can argue. Infinite Warfare, Nastie, Gunless, Priestahh. Only Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3, another Black Ops 3 mentioned for the boys, had seasons where there was no rookie champion. Now, still, good players came in during those seasons, but there was no rookie champion those years. People were talking about Attach in Advanced Warfare World Championship, but he actually did play towards the end of Ghost, as far as I'm aware, so I thought that was interesting. But let's talk Major 4. These are what the bookies believe are the favourites. FaZe are going in as the favourites again. Yes, they have a harder bracket than Toronto, technically. They play Subliners round 1. And actually, New York are the third highest favourite regardless, because I guess if they were to beat FaZe, they would be in kind of prime position. And to be fair, New York have been, I wouldn't say a bogey matchup, because obviously New York are a very good team in their own right. But, a Game 5 win for New York is not exactly impossible to imagine, shall we say, based on what we've seen from those two teams so far this season. Ultra second favourites. OpTic is still the fourth favourite, which probably makes sense because, starting in losers one obviously isn't ideal, and they've not been playing well as of late. But nonetheless, if you catch fire, you only play a couple of more series from losers one than you do from winners one. Then Surge, Thieves, Heretics. Then it drops down further, and Boston and Rocker actually both at 500, basically at 500 to 1. So it ain't great. Obviously, if you guys aren't aware, if Boston win the entire event and all of their opponents at the bottom of the standings basically drop out dead last, top 12 or top 8 absolute bare minimum, Boston can still qualify for champs. So it is possible that Boston come in and, go back to back. They win Major 4, they win the championship. But, realistically, that's going to come to an end probably in the first round of losers. This is the bracket. If you guys haven't seen it yet, we'll look at the schedule for the matches over the coming minutes here. Just quickly on the head-to-head match 1 record, shall we say, because Vegas versus Surge, Vegas actually have the upper hand in that game, technically, so far this season. Toronto have beaten Gorillas 3 times every time they've played so far this year. FaZe actually are 4-1 against the Subliners. So despite the fact that New York can win a game 5 against FaZe have beaten them 4-1 so far this year. And then Thieves are up 2-1 on Heretics, but they haven't played all that many times this season. But let's talk about this interview conversation that was uploaded by OpTic. And this was really interesting. Now, first of all, this was probably filmed, I will say, maybe 2 weeks ago, at least, 1.5, 2 weeks ago. Probably before the qualifiers started to get kind of ugly for OpTic, because I think at the end of the episode, they say, there's like 40-something days until the World Championship. So probably it's, 2.5 weeks ago they actually filmed this one. But nonetheless, a lot of the things apply to the present day. Certainly what they have to say on Dashy. I know there's been lots of talk about these comments on Dashy as a player back in certainly the Vanguard season and at the start of Modern Warfare 2, whether they were necessary, whatever you want to say. I'll share the clip here. I'll link the entire episode because it's definitely worth checking out. Lots of stuff in this down below, and I've tried to cut down as much as I can on this Dashy segment, but it's just quite a lot of nuance here, so yeah, it's going to be a few minutes, but I think you'll enjoy it.
After that event, you wanted to move on from Brandon as a teammate. Since that point, obviously, things go sour for a little bit there. I end up retiring. Brandon comes back in. How has Brandon evolved as a teammate since that point?
When I first started teaming with Brandon, it was in Vanguard, and that was definitely like the most we had a good year. Up until obviously Ender's thumb or whatever. So we chalked that year for the most part. I mean, during that year, the only thing I could really remember was just I don't know, just the whole late thing, right? I feel like I cared back then, but now I don't really give a fuck. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Well, as long as he's just someone on time, or anyone someone on time.
Just not 30 minutes.
Yeah.
When one thing would go wrong, it would everything.
Oh, actually, yeah.
When one thing would go wrong in a scrim, it would be the whole scrim would be just hell.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. That's what I remember. Actually, that was the biggest thing. Yeah, he just didn't like losing, and it would set up the vibe. I mean,
he would get quiet.
He would get quiet, and then
we
you could just.
In practice, I was always trying to be yo, what the fuck? Why we vibe killed? We lost a fucking scrim.
And that's the one thing that I hated the most. And I'm pretty sure we brought up. I can't remember that year. I'm really bad at my memory, but from what I remember, I'm pretty sure we tried to talk to him about it.
Yeah, no, we did multiple times. We had multiple conversations. Yo, we gotta lock this shit in. Our practice is taking a hit. It's affecting our placings. We're just not confident. Again, practice is everything. Going into an event, if you're not prepared, it's gonna show. You're gonna seem uncomfortable on the map. You're gonna make bad plays. You're not gonna make confident plays.
It was the New York one. The New York one.
Major.
We got there. Something like that. It was when Ender was back. I'm pretty sure. He was we thought he was back. Yeah, we thought he was back. So we warmed up on you warm up Wednesday. If you have 2 sets, and then you do the testing on land or whatever to test your earbuds and stuff like that. And we had a really, really shitty scrim. But the way that his entire vibe off that scrim was so negative. We were losing maps, and it was holy fuck, we were literally dog shit. Yeah, that's the vibe that I was getting off of.
And then that kind of rolled into the tournament.
That kind of it steamrolled into the tournament. But that's one thing that Brandon is that he's such a competitor. At least back then he didn't really understand. He was just so locked in the game where he didn't really understand what he was feeding off his energy into the teammates.
Yeah.
Because us three, we're tweaking. We're holy fucking shit. He's tweaking. he's obviously got like,
Gotta fix this.
yeah, we gotta fucking fix this shit. But in his head, it's like, yo, like what the fuck are we doing? But in our head, we're like second guessing our plays and stuff like that. And that's one thing that like it was just so uncomfortable because like being on that environment when you're, especially, I mean,
it sucks.
It's
everyone's
just,
like
it's impossible.
on edge. Nobody. It's like it feels like there's no like common goal trying to be reached because it's like, does he fucking hate me?
Yeah, exactly. It's always like, yo,
I'm like, does this guy hate me? Like if I make a bad play, is he like judging? Like, is he like in his head like, holy shit, this guy's horrible? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Brandon just wants to win, and he'll do whatever he wants to do to win, and I respect that for him. The only thing that, yeah, it was more of just like he just didn't understand what he was doing.
It was a communication thing.
Yeah.
It was like he didn't realize like how it was affecting us, and then we brought it up to him, and it like got better for a little bit, and then it like got bad again. But it was just we just couldn't like lock in like the team. I mean, really the team vibe. It was like the team vibe of all of us trying to get better, like collectively. It was like we just couldn't get that together.
Yeah.
And again, there was so much shit that went wrong that year. But now he's like great, right?
No, now he's good. Now he's literally he's definitely, I feel like it's his peak. Like the peak he's ever been as like a teammate. I mean, even individually, he's been doing amazing. So that's one thing.
I mean, he's always been amazing individually. He's always been.
And the only thing that he's done different from like what the Vanguard to now is just like he doesn't do that anymore in terms of like if we lose a map, he was always like he's trying to figure out ways that we can up our level or trying to figure he's always just trying to level up essentially. And that's one thing that I personally didn't think he was doing back then to what he's personally doing now. So
I'm not sure we've ever heard the explanation to quite that extent as to why Dashy was not Shotzzy's favourite teammate, and the fact that after that first event in Modern Warfare 2, when Scump then retired, Shotzzy wanted Dashy dropped, and eventually they did drop him. Then, eventually all the drama happened, Scump then retires, right? And then Dashy ends up coming back, Rambo's out the door. To be fair, this reminded me somewhat of what happened during that time period they're talking about. If you guys remember, when Dashy was dropped, and then they did like a podcast OpTic, and they had Rambo on, and they were talking about some of the reasons why. Obviously, Dashy wasn't there to comment or to give his perspective, and that's why Dashy absolutely blew up after the fact. You guys remember, that's basically the podcast that inspired Dashy to go on the rampage on stream, drop the Rambo race stories about race giving practice for bowling, and all of that stuff, the mini-map scrims. Everything came out as a result of that. And I thought this was, maybe it's a different story now because Dashy's still there, and clearly there's been some serious positive change in Dashy as a teammate as to why, they're happy to talk about this stuff now while Shotzzy and Dashy are still teammates. I imagine Dashy might be listening to this thinking, well, does that tell the full story? Would I like to hear my perspective? Just because they're kind of talking for like 6, 7, 8 minutes there about why Dashy was a bad teammate while he's still on the organisation. Maybe that's fine. Maybe Dashy doesn't mind. But I thought it was interesting about their perspective on that Dashy was, trying to, such a winner in some sense, his mentality, that he wasn't really so aware that his mentality in scrims, it's just practice at the end of the day, not being happy losing scrims, was actually affecting the performance of his teammates, checking them out as it were. And even they said that dramatically affected their performance when they went to Major 4 that season and helped basically chalk up their season, which is certainly one way of looking at it. I think the other thing that I would say on it though is that Shotzzy admits, and Scump basically admits as well, the iLLeY thing chalked their season, right? That's how they described it. That's how Shotzzy described it, that when iLLeY got his thumb injury, the season was basically, they just wrote it off in some sense. And I think Dashy's made comments on this before to the effect of like, yeah, when the iLLeY thing happens, the feeling in the team was kind of like, well, it's not meant to be, which isn't the greatest mentality if you're trying to win, because iLLeY eventually came back in, but I think the feeling was that OpTic won at the start of the season, the iLLeY thing happened with the thumb injury, and then it's like, oh, well, it's chalked, I guess we'll, better luck next year, which is probably why they ran it back in the first place. So I just think it's interesting that Scump and Shotzzy are kind of admitting, mentally we were kind of compromised after the iLLeY thing, but yet, it's Dashy's fault that the practice wasn't so good. All rather interesting, I thought, and even at the start of that, when Shotzzy was also saying that, yeah, back in, Vanguard, it used to really annoy me when Dashy was late, especially by like 30 minutes. Now, sometimes he's still late, but it's like, it's okay. I can handle it if it's like 10 minutes or something, which is, I don't know, some interesting stuff in there. Of course, the other point of the matter is that they were talking about practice, the importance of practice, having confidence in your team. And here we are, probably 2.5 weeks from when this was recorded, and all the rumor has it that OpTic's practice hasn't been so good. Do they have the confidence in themselves? Do they have the confidence in their teammate in certain situations? That has been a big talking point of the last week. And here's Scump a few weeks ago with Shotzzy talking about how important it is. And obviously, probably since this recording, some things have started to not exactly go in the best way. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Thought that was very interesting to listen to, and lots of things to potentially say on it. I'm sure they will be said in the comments below. These are the games today. Just to note, because it's in LA, West Coast events are just like, they're not good for anyone that's not in the West Coast, as far as I'm concerned, especially for us in Europe, and even East Coast, I'm sure they're not, massively happy about it, but whatever. The event usually starts at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. That is not true. It starts at 3 p.m. Eastern today, midday on the West Coast, so it's going to be a late one in Europe, right? But Vegas, Surge, honestly, these games are pretty tough to call. Like, okay, Toronto are the clear favourites here. FaZe are going to be favoured against the Subliners, but apart from that, who's going to win Vegas, Surge? Who knows? Winner makes the World Championship guaranteed, although Surge are basically already in. The same is true for Miami versus the Los Angeles Thieves. I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm predicting Game 5s in those series. I think I'm going to take Surge in the first one, and I think I'm going to take Miami in the last one, but I really don't know. Intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.